holy cow, like I knew that pickleball was really important to me. I knew it made me feel good. I knew I liked it, but I didn't get the depth of what it really meant to me. And here's the depth of it.
Move over, baby boomers. It's time for Gen XYZ. It's time to stop waiting on the world to change. It's time to be the change. It's time to stop thinking about how your life can be better. It's time to start taking action, massive action to improve your life. Join Zach Winter and Mark Adair Rios every week as we learn how others had the grit, determination, and conviction to 10x their lives, and as we explore ways that can help you 10x your life.
Hey, and welcome to another edition of the 10X for Gen XYZ podcast. I'm Zach Winter.
And I'm Mark Adair Rios.
And today we're excited to have as our guest Clinton Young. Clinton's a motivational speaker. He describes himself as a courage speaker and mentor. He's recently spoken to over 50,000 people across North America and Europe, and he was recognized by Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global as a top 12 speaker to inspire you. Clinton, welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's so nice to be here with you today.
Hey there.
We're super excited to have you on the show. Now, where are you broadcasting from?
So right now I'm actually in Austin, Texas. I'm based in San Diego. And if you want me to get a little more specific where I am, I'm actually in my 36-foot motorhome that my wife and I are traveling around the US in right now. And perhaps we'll get into that story at some point today, but that's where I am specifically. And I'm in Austin, Texas.
And do you have Elon Musk's kind of satellite internet right now?
Oh yeah, I've got him on speed dial.
Are you using the Starlink?
No, I'm not. I'm actually not. No, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, it could be good for your
Totally.
living situation and touring across the U.S.
Absolutely.
What's going on in Austin? Are there some events going on there right now?
So Austin is one of the meccas for pickleball, which many of you probably don't know what pickleball is. I'll give you the 20-second version of what it is. It's like ping pong and tennis had a baby, and it's a really cool freaking baby, okay? It's a really, really fun sport. It's actually the fastest growing sport on the planet right now. And part of the reason for that is because it's so easy to learn how to play. And it brings about a sort of feeling of self-esteem and confidence. Anytime you do anything and you get good at it quickly, it makes you feel good. I have a feeling that's one of the main reasons why it's the fastest growing sport on the planet. So Austin is where Major League Pickleball is based. It's where a lot of the pros live. So when my wife and I took off in our RV a year ago, one of the places we wanted to explore was Austin, Texas, to be around centers of influence. Anyone out there in business knows that when you want to become something in a certain area, whether it's a business or you want to start a new business or your career, or anything in your life, you want to be a triathlete, well, who should you hang out with? You should probably hang out with people that are doing what it is that you want to do and that are 5,000 steps ahead of you.
Totally.
That's what brought us here.
Absolutely.
That's really exciting. And you started an organization called Pickleball for Life. What's that about?
So pickleball, the number 4 in life, pickleballforlife.org. That is, it's not yet a formal entity. I am a professional keynote speaker and travel around the world and speak, but over the last few years, as I've learned of pickleball and started playing it, I realized that it really has made a massive impact on my life. And I'll tell you a quick story. Back in San Diego, right before we took off on our second stint here in the RV, it was back in March, I was sitting in a cafe. Picture this, I'm in a cafe, I'm with my coach. And this coach, she's talking to me, she's asking me questions about what I'm doing in my trip and how it's going. And I'm telling her about pickleball and what my wife's there. And I start crying. In public, I start crying, and I'm like, "What the crap? Why am I crying? There's no crying in pickleball." I'm like, "What's going on here?" Right? And it was at that moment that I realized, "Holy cow!" Like I knew that pickleball was really important to me. I knew it made me feel good. I knew I liked it, but I didn't get the depth of what it really meant to me. And here's the depth of it. I realized in that moment that at 23 years old, I'm 45 right now. Okay. Actually, it was at 21. By 21 years old, I had 3 major knee surgeries. Okay, 3 major knee surgeries. One of them I had when I was 8. Okay, which is crazy. I'm still growing and developing. And I had no clue until that moment in that cafe with my coach talking about pickleball and crying in public. I had no idea how much that stunted my self-esteem,
Hmm.
my confidence, my overall self-worth. I felt like I could not compete in anything. And such a, I talk a lot about limiting beliefs as an inspirational speaker. And of course, the people that teach it, I have them too. I have limiting belief too. I was walking around for 23 years with this limiting belief that I could not compete in anything. I can't play basketball. I can't do anything. All I can do is hike and maybe go swimming. And I, at the time, didn't really like swimming. So I realized in that moment, holy cow, my self-esteem has been crushed for 23 years. And pickleball has given me this rush of just feeling alive, this rush of self-esteem, of confidence, of courage. And I realized in that moment that, holy cow, like not everybody has the same story as me, but I know now why pickleball is the fastest growing sport on the planet. It's because it's more than a game. I truly believe pickleball is a catalyst for positive change in ourselves and positive change in the world.
That's cool, man. And so just in terms of your coming to that, was it solely because you had a facility for really playing pickleball, or did you go through a lot of struggles physically and then mentally to really get to a really good place and understand and play the game, the way you want it?
It is so easy. When I was looking for pickleball, I didn't know I was looking for it. I didn't know it existed. It's been around since 1965, by the way.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah. Bainbridge Island, Washington.
Sport.
It used to be, known amongst the 60 and 70-year-old people in the RV parks and the retirement homes. But now there's literally a Major League Pickleball. It's on TV. It was just on CBS last weekend. Like it's blowing up right now.
Yeah.
Massive celebrities are getting involved. Jamie Foxx was at one of the big tournaments this past weekend. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was at one of the big tournaments this weekend. So it's really blowing up. But to answer your question, I was looking for something that was exercise, but that didn't feel like exercise. Because I don't really like to exercise, to be honest with you. And I was looking for something that I could do with my wife. And I'm sitting here in the dentist chair in Encinitas, California, and I hear this pop, 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 back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, what is that noise? So I walk outside after my dentist appointment, and I'm walking over there, and I see what it is, and I see, this goes to answer your question, I see like a 7-year-old playing with like a 75-year-old, a really overweight person playing with a really like athletic looking person. Everybody's smiling, everybody's laughing, everybody's having fun. And you wouldn't think that people are fairly good at it, that are some of the descriptions of the people that I just described, but everybody was pretty good. So it's a sport that is so easy to get good at. It's really hard to master, but it's so easy to get good at. So I didn't really have, and most people, I'm actually a coach now as well, and I help people learn how to play it. There's not really a huge learning curve. I never did any racket sports, any paddle sports. So I didn't really go through a lot of that. And I find that most people don't really go through a lot of challenges. That's why it's so popular.
It's a fun sport. My sister and her husband are very into it, and they invited my wife and me to play. And we had never played before. We had played tennis in high school, in college, but it was very easy to pick up. I found the hardest thing was figuring out where to be on the court, if you're up towards the net or behind him, and the scoring.
100%. I tell a lot of, we won't go on too much on pickleball here. I know there's other things to talk about, but I will say one of the things I teach all my students is you actually get your accuracy from your legs and your feet and where you are on the court with your body, that more so than you do with your actual arm, which is how you hit the ball. Right. So court positioning is absolutely super important. And pickleball for life, what it is and what it stands for, eventually it'll probably be a nonprofit, but right now it is not. It's a brand really underneath my speaking business. But what it stands for is inspiring mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being in our communities. Because again, I know not everybody has my same story, but I know that pickleball brings life to people. So it's pickleball for life. I will play it for the rest of my life. And anyone who starts playing it, I can almost guarantee you're going to get hooked, and you're going to want to play it till the rest of your life. You can play it till you're 101 years old or more. And it gives life. It is for life. So the events that I usually hold events for charity. I actually just got one scheduled in Hanover, Massachusetts, coming up on Labor Day. And it's going to support, it's kind of a heavy topic, but it supports Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which is in September. and we're doing an event to raise money and raise awareness for a local charity there in Plymouth County. So
And now,
we do events like that.
Are you guys driving out there from Austin? Are you doing the trip, or are you going to just jump on, leave the RV there and jump on the plane?
If my mom's listening right now, earmuffs, mom, earmuffs, because I'm actually surprising my mom. We're driving up for her 75th birthday party.
Fantastic.
So we're actually driving up. We've not been to the Northeast in the RV. So yeah, we are driving this time.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It's
so
fun. Tell
us about the motivational speaking, your focus, because you describe yourself as a courage speaker.
Yeah. I feel like we have the experiences in our life and they're always perfect, even the negative ones. Those are usually the most perfect ones. They don't always seem that way in the moment. So if anyone's experiencing any challenges out there, know that you are in the exact perfect place. And you're in the exact perfect place to be able to then share what you learned from that experience with other people. So I teach and I talk a lot about courage because I've had to have a lot of courage in my life. Back in 2008, we all know what happened in 2008. You talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and business people on this show, and we know that there was the financial collapse, right? This is a few years after, 3 years after I became an entrepreneur, going on 4 years. First time I'd ever really had my own business, first time I'd ever made 6 figures, and within a month, I lose my credit, I lose my business, I lose my property. And it's 6 months after I get married, right? Welcome to the team, honey, right? Welcome to the team. So it was tough, right? My confidence is absolutely shattered. And fast forward a little bit, 2010, I was still shattered. I was in a really rough place for several years. And I find myself at a microphone, 2010 in San Diego, California. I am not speaking, okay? I know I'm a speaker. I was not giving this seminar. I'm in a seminar. I'm totally lost, right? Completely lost and shattered. And I'm at the microphone. Picture this, 200 people in front of me, seminar leader over on my left. And he looks right at me in front of everybody and he says, "Clinton, you're dead inside." Oh. And I was just like, oh, it was like a stake to my heart.
What kind of seminar was this?
It was a personal development seminar. And
break them down and build them back up.
Yeah, but he was so spot on though. Yeah. I was dead inside. It was like a Harry Potter lightning bolt, like right between my eyes. Like I knew in that moment that I was dead inside. It's kind of like a pilot light under a stove, a gas stove. You know how that light's always going, but you don't always see it, right? Well, I felt like my light had almost flickered out, almost flickered out. And I thought back, again, several years, really challenging, reflecting on like what was going on, what's happening in my life, why am I feeling this way? And I thought I figured it out when I realized in 2005 I bought these properties, and I shouldn't have bought these properties. Okay, I'm going to back up here, zoom back out to 30,000 feet. A little bit about myself. I've always been somebody that has followed my intuition, always, before I even knew what intuition was, even as a little kid. And just so we're all on the same page, all your listeners and viewers, what I do mean by intuition, real rudimentary explanation of this, is it's not conscious reasoning, it's more of a feeling. It's more of a feeling state, right? You just feel it. And I would always just feel something. Example, I felt the urge that I had to go and visit a friend in Singapore and take a 3 or 4 week vacation when I was 21 years old. I had no idea why. I'm like, why am I going to Asia? I just went. And tell you what, it always leads to something magical. Okay. It actually led me to realizing how passionate I was for culture. And I ended up going back to graduate school and I studied cultural adjustment process people go through when they get sent overseas on a work assignment. And I combined that with emotional intelligence, and it just spurred this whole, so many things spurred on from that, right? It's always perfect. It's always perfect. So I'd always been someone who did that. And coming back to the story at the microphone in the seminar, and I thought back at that moment, like, why did my intuition not tell me not to buy these properties? Like, that was my whole construct of the world. Intuition, you feel something, you just, boom, you just feel it and you do it, and it always works out. It doesn't always work out, by the way, exactly the way you think it's going to work out. In fact, it's usually different, but it's always perfect. And so I was broken because my whole construct of the world was broken. I didn't know what to listen to, what to trust, how to move forward with making simple decisions. How do I get out of this hole, right? How do I start a new business? How do I maybe go back and get another job? What do I do, right? And I thought I figured it out. But literally, it was another year, over a year after that. I'm walking in the woods and I'm doing one of these habits called black sheep habits, which possibly we'll talk about later, maybe we won't. They're black sheep because a lot of people aren't willing to do them because they might stand out from the herd, like a black sheep would stand out from the herd. One of those is, I call it contemplation, right? Taking solo walks in nature, maybe even taking a while. I don't want to sound all hippy dippy, although I do live in San Diego, but taking your shoes off, getting that negative ion exchange with the ground, walking on the ground, right? And just kind of being by yourself. It's kind of like a moving meditation, right? Where you actually allow thoughts to come in and they'll bubble up, and it's contemplation, taking walks in nature. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm doing that. Okay. I'm doing that. And all of a sudden, it just hits me. I'm like, oh my goodness. It wasn't my intuition that failed me. It was myself, me, that failed my intuition.
You weren't listening to your intuition?
I didn't actually listen to my intuition. And then a flood of memories came back, of memories of the people you're working with. They're not the right people. You're not doing the right due diligence. You're doing it for all the wrong reasons. It's the wrong time in the market. I was in real estate at the time. I studied real estate education, right? And I did it for all the wrong reasons. And I just shoved it down. And my intuition was saying, no, don't do it. And I did it anyway. So it wasn't my intuition that failed me. It was me that failed my intuition. And that's why I was so shattered.
That's
right?
fascinating.
Because not only at that time could I actually trust my intuition, I couldn't even trust myself to listen to my intuition.
Right. That's the ultimate break in confidence in yourself,
oh my goodness.
right?
Yeah.
I read a book.
That's where it started.
I read a book about that Malcolm Gladwell wrote a while ago. I think it was called Thinking Fast and Slow, but he talks about intuition, and he describes intuition as, it's really, you don't know where this thought is coming from, but really it is based off of a lot of kind of deeper kind of analysis that you're just kind of doing instantly. So there is a basis for it. So, you have an intuition, but it could be based on an actual analysis that you've kind of done unconsciously.
I feel, not to get too spiritual, but I feel like that's who we are. I feel like we are spiritual beings having a very human experience. And who we actually are is that little voice in our head right now saying, who's the voice you're talking about? That's actually us. That's part of who we are. That's not all of it, but, and I feel like we just have these bodies, right? So I feel like that's us telling our human brain, this is the direction, follow your intuition, do this. I love the quote by Steve Jobs. He says, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition, because I'm going to kind of butcher this, but he says, because it already knows what you want. Like, it already knows what you want to do. Like, your intuition knows. We don't know because we get stuck in our head with our fears and our limiting beliefs that are in our brain, which is a great computing machine, but it's not our intuition. Right? They're two separate things, in my opinion.
But, and I completely agree. I spent a big part of my life being an artist and really trying to develop that type of stuff, intuition but there's also integration, right? And recognizing that there are periods. This is what struck me when you were talking about this period of time when you were buying these houses, because I experienced something just not really similar in terms of the outcome, but I know that when I'm taking something on that's new, even though I have a pretty well-developed intuition, in a lot of things, that goes by the wayside because I'm using a different part of myself in order to assimilate information. And it takes a while for the intuition to start filtering in and bringing in all that new information to kind of normalize in the life. And so there is a period of time where it is uncertain, no matter how confident I am in my rational thought process. It's scary, it's unknown, it's weeding through the stuff, and you're using a different part of yourself. And your intuition's like, okay, I'm along for the ride, man, because I know you're going to open the door in a minute, but I'll be right here. And there's that period of time when you can mess up royally in life if you really think that's the end, I guess, position, right? And you don't break through to the point where you assimilate it enough to be able to rely on both your intuition and your newfound kind of knowledge. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, they're both very, very important. Absolutely. Without
And
a
it's
doubt.
like you have intuition and your knowledge or research or analytical process, but then you also have your emotion, right? Whether it's fear or greed getting involved that's pushing you
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you guys
Absolutely.
think? I mean, Clinton, you're really positive, person, and I already get the juice from you, which is fantastic. You know what I mean? What do you think about, and I'm asking you this too, Zach, about this kind of resurgence of kind of stoicism that's going around right now? And I know it's going around in the business community right now, and I don't know if you've seen any of that, Clinton, in your travels, but
I'm
yeah,
curious to hear what Zach has to say on this first before I chime in. Do you have anything to?
Well, my only experience is on Instagram. I'm seeing, different
yeah, it's going
Instagram
around.
posts
Yeah.
on stoicism and these, ancient philosophers, these Greek philosophers on stoicism. And, I like reading them. I have an open mind. I'm interested in looking at different points of view, but I think
Yeah.
there's a masculinity component to it. And I'm not sure if that's kind of related to
That's interesting.
kind of a pushback or a counter against some of the other kind of more left-leaning philosophies about, being non-binary, and I don't know.
That's
don't know.
very interesting. That's really interesting, that kind of take on it. There is that kind of thing. So, and believe me, I'm not a big reader on Stoic philosophy, right? Marcus Aurelius, there's a few other kind of Roman and Greek kind of people that I guess encapsulate a lot of the writings with this. But I guess the idea is really kind of learning how to center yourself despite what's going on in the world, and
Yeah.
trying not to react. If not immediately, at some point you have to, make a decision maybe, but to what's going on in the immediate environment, I guess. And
I
so
think that's kind of there's an Eastern philosophy to that too, right? I mean, that's very kind of Zen. It's
Sure.
very meditative. Don't let your emotions, hook you.
Right.
As Emma children would say, don't get hooked.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I don't have a lot to add to what y'all shared. I haven't seen a lot of what you're talking about out there, but what I thought of when you said it is a very just pragmatic and practical example of maybe being stoic. And that is the trend, if you will, of doing the ice baths. I don't know if you have seen the ice baths right on Facebook, right? I actually, on our travels, we stayed in Gilbert, Arizona, and this guy had this ice chest, and literally it's an Airbnb type thing, but it's for RVs. It's called Hip Camp, I think. Yeah, Hip Camp. He had this little freezer out back filled with water, and he's like, "Hey, you want to try it?" I knew nothing. Talk about naive. I was like, "Yeah, I'll try it. What's normal?" It's like, "Yeah, like 45 seconds or like a minute, maybe 2 minutes." So I get in and I'm like, "Honey, just keep me focused on something else." And he was helping me as well. I ended up going 5 minutes in this thing
Nice.
because I was
Nice.
just being stoic, right? I was not complaining. No
Yeah.
thoughts of the feeling. I don't even know if I'm using this right, the word properly, but that's what I thought of
Right.
when you said there's sort of a trend going on. I think people are trying to get more centered.
Yes.
And that's one of the ways, and it's also has a lot of health benefits as well.
There you go. That actually is that you brought on, right? I think that, and maybe this ties into what you're talking about, Zach, in terms of seeing it, kind of being pushed on a lot of these digital platforms is I think intuitively we are so hooked in now with all of that stuff that we can feel that things are just so crazy. And there is a part of us that kind of seeks out, some sort of calm, even if we're still, searching in Instagram and watching, all this stuff, or watching our I don't know, our Dogecoin go up and down and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
in the meantime, I scroll through as Dogecoin's taking a dip and go, "Oh yeah, that's right. Marcus Aurelius said." I don't know.
I think there's an overall just, I don't want to say awakening, but a lot of people around, I think around the world, I've spoken in front of a lot of people recently, and there's a lot more people that are very much more quote unquote awake than I was when I was their age. And there's a lot of people, like, meditation is kind of a normal, like, people, it's not really a black sheep habit anymore. Not everybody does it, but it's very mainstream. It's in commercials now, right? And, like, yoga is all over the place. So I think there's a lot of there's a lot of awareness around the power of mindfulness, right? We talk a lot about that in corporations these days as well. There's actually big corporations that pay speakers like me to come in and talk about mindfulness. It's like, what? Like, what 10 years ago? Not even.
Even in our business, our tenants are in a lot of buildings are building out mindfulness or meditation rooms, places where you can go and center yourself and sit and contemplate 100%. Before you get back to work.
And not to always bring it back to pickleball, but Brene Brown, who I'm sure you two gentlemen know,
love her,
right? Famous lecturer. She's actually one of the owners of one of the Major League Pickleball teams.
Interesting.
She's in on it too. And she said in a quote, you can look at it in her social media, she says, pickleball is the only place in her life where she truly feels like she's in the here and the now.
That's interesting.
And that's another thing, again, when you think about the world awakening and the world looking for connectivity without, not this phone connectivity, but actual, like, human to human contact. Pickleball is, it's a very small court. You're right across 6 feet apart from your partner, 14 feet across from your opponents. It's very, very social, and you have to be present. And she makes a joke after she says that comment. She says, because when I'm not, I'm reminded very quickly by the ball coming at my face, right? Because you're very close across from the other person. So you're forced into being really in the here and now.
Right.
So that's probably another reason why it's blown up.
That's
well,
cool.
I love that social aspect of actually being with people face to face, not on Zoom,
right?
Not on computers, not on social media. Because I think we really need to develop, especially coming out of COVID and lockdowns. It's so important that people get 100%. Back together.
I agree. I think we're going to even find more of that, more and more people really trying to find ways to kind of break out of this kind of isolation thing.
It's really important.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you do a lot of motivational speaking. Do you work with any kind of more concentrated groups? Do you have I don't know, I don't want to call it a coaching program, but do you work with smaller groups, like one-on-one or, things like that?
So primarily where I've spoken in the past, I've done a lot of employee appreciation day type events for corporations, governments. I speak a lot at leadership groups and entrepreneur groups. But as far as coaching, most of the coaching that I do is actually for speakers. It's speakers that want to become world-class speakers. And I don't mean world-renowned necessarily. I just mean super effective, like really effective. Since I've been playing pickleball, to be honest with you, I've been coaching pickleball. I've been coaching not only the sport of pickleball, but the philosophies that we're talking about here. I'm starting to speak more on that and really reframing my message, reigniting the human spirit. It takes courage to live your dream life now. And I'm actually at sort of a precipice of something new emerging for my speaking career and my coaching career. And it's being born out of my experience living in this RV, traveling around the US, going through all the challenges that I'm going through, and needing the courage to take action in spite of fear, and watching the magic and miracles open up on the other side when I do follow that process. And I have an amazing formula I can share with
please.
If you want, around what I just talked about and how other people can do the same thing. You want me to share it? I call it the magic and miracles formula. I don't want to freak you out. We can just call it the success formula if you want.
Sure. That's it.
Any of the business
the
folks
10x formula. How about that?
This is the 10x. This is like the 1000x formula.
There you go.
Okay, we talk about how do we 10x our life. Follow this formula. Okay, so everybody buckle up your seatbelts and get ready, because this formula has the power to literally change your life, like change your world, change your whole perception of the world. Okay. And it goes like this. I feel like we need to be inspired. Like, we absolutely need to be inspired. If we're not inspired, like, why not? Let's figure it out. And like, that's what life is about. Life is not, we're not put on this earth to be miserable, broke, unhappy, sick. That's not natural. We create that unknowingly in ourselves, right? I don't want to go too deep on that, but we're meant to be happy. We're meant to be prosperous. We're meant to be abundant. We're meant to be healthy. Okay. So if we're not inspired, we really got to get curious about why we're not. And we have to find a way to get inspired. One of the great ways to do that, I find, is to find out what you're really, really great at, right? So in speaking to different people around the world, I find that most people are in one of three places, okay? I'm going to assume there are probably four places, but we're not going to talk about the fourth one. The fourth one is the people that are in a really, really challenging spot and they just don't believe anything's possible. Like they don't believe anything's possible. They're kind of toxic. You kind of don't want to be around them. You feel dirty when you talk to them. It's like, yeah, you want to help them, but you just can't. I imagine that most people that listen to your show are not in that category, but they still might have experienced some challenges or a failure. They might be in a tough spot, but they believe anything's possible. That's the core of everybody that we're talking to right now. You believe everything's possible, so you're a relatively positive person. They fall in three categories from there. They either don't know what they want next. I don't know if you all been in a situation like that where you want more, you know you're bound for more, you know you're bound for maybe even greatness, but you don't actually know what you want. I find so many people don't know what they want, and I've been in that position as well. Number two is they believe anything's possible, and they know what they want, but they don't know how to get it, right? They just need coaching, they need instruction, they need guidance, they need a model, they need a mentor, right? They need to overcome whatever challenges that are stopping them from investing in that as well, because usually that takes either time or money to get those things, right? Or they make a stupid mistake like I did. I shouldn't say stupid, that's my word. A mistake without thinking, or making a mistake, making a choice for the wrong reasons, I should say. Okay, so that's number two. Number three is you know what you want, okay, and you actually know how to get it. And you believe it's possible for everybody else, but you don't believe it's possible for yourself. And that one has like a really special place in my heart because I've been in that spot a lot in my life. Not a lot, but I've really experienced that spot deeply, where I believe it's possible for everyone else. I'm generally pretty optimistic, but I just, for whatever reason, have a limiting belief that I don't believe I can do it. Right?
Is that one of those things when we're in that kind of spot where we kind of overly give advice to people and we're generally, it's a positive thing, right? But we're always trying to help people. We're always saying yes. We're always kind of giving advice, but then sometimes we don't take our own really good advice either.
That can definitely happen. Without a doubt, that can happen. Or it could be somebody that just, they believe it's possible. They have a limiting belief, a blind spot that they can't see. And they just don't think that they can do it. They don't believe they can do it. Or maybe they get in a momentum and all of a sudden they hit a brick wall and they go the other way. And if you've ever had that in your life or any of your viewers where like you just keep finding yourself in the same spot, like, wait, I'm stuck here again. Like I did this like 3 years ago. I'm doing it again. Right. So what I find is people are generally in one of those three places. And when we can really go internal and really discover more about who we are, I feel like that's the access to a lot of what we're talking, all the challenges here. Figuring out what do we value? What are our actual values? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses, right? What's our flow? There's this concept called flow. And there's an amazing personality assessment that people can do, flowprofiles.com. I have a little bit of information on it. It's an amazing profile. And flow is that place where what you're really great at meets what is really natural to you, what feels good, right? So it's that place where time flies by. It's that place where it actually gives you life when you do it. It doesn't deplete energy. It actually gives you energy when you do it, right? So you're in the flow when it gives you life. And there's actually ways that you can discover what are those things that you can do in your business. There's a whole body of work around this construct that can help you build out your team, to have the right people on your teams and make sure you're doing things, not that everything's always going to be sugar plums and cherry blossoms, but put you in your quote unquote flow for 60 to 70% of the time in your role, so that you're actually adding the most value to the enterprise. You're actually adding the most value to yourself, to others around you, and you get all the other people. What's his name? Is it Maxwell that said, get the right people on the bus and then get the right people on the right seats on the bus?
I heard something,
Yeah,
something
I
towards that.
heard
Yeah.
that.
So we got to get the right people on the bus, and we got to get the right people on the right seats on the bus. And that's
Right.
more of the business application of this tool that I'm talking about. But for a personal application, we just want to discover what makes us feel good, what gives us life. Because when we know that, then we can make way better decisions, way better choices on job opportunities, on business opportunities, on roles within our business or on a team. And we actually put ourselves in the role where we're adding the most value, right? And that actually makes us feel good while we're doing it. So why wouldn't we be adding the most value? Of course we would, because we feel great when we're doing it. It's kind of like pickleball. I'm good at it because I love it. I flow, you naturally flow to those things that are in your flow. You'll do them all day long if you can. Okay, so coming back to the formula, we have to get inspired. One of the ways to get inspired, if somebody's out there saying, well, I don't even know what I want, I don't even know what I like. You tell me to find my passions, I don't even know what I like, never mind passion, have passion for. Well, find something that you're good at and just go do that because it makes you feel good. I'll give you an example. I was in a really challenging spot, I told you. And I thought, okay, well, my flow is to be out and about with people. Like talking to you right now and being able to talk and share, this gives me life. That's why I talk fast right now. It's because I'm excited. I don't always talk this fast. I'm excited, right? So I decided I was going to volunteer at my spiritual center. There's no job in that. There's no money in that. There's no opportunity in that. But when you go and put yourself in situations that actually make you feel good, not to get all quantum physics on us all here, but we start to vibrate at a higher vibration, right? And we start to attract things in our lives that are vibrating at that same vibration. If you don't want to go the quantum physics route, just know that when you feel good, because you're doing something that puts you in flow, you're naturally going to be more clear. You're going to see opportunities more. You're going to have better thoughts that arise. You're going to have better connections with people because you're in a better, so many positive things come from it from a real practical standpoint and from a scientific standpoint. So put yourself in situations that actually feel good. It raises your vibration. So that's part of the inspiration. And likes can turn into passions, right? So you can start to do things that you enjoy more and more and more. And I know this sounds like the slow boat to wherever you're going, and it's not overnight, but you know what? Transforming your life isn't always overnight, but it can be overnight because you can collapse time when you're out doing something you love and all of a sudden you meet somebody and you tell them something you're passionate about. And you're going to find out exactly what I'm talking about when I tell you the rest of the formula, how it can happen overnight, absolutely overnight. So we've got to be inspired. That's number one. So if you're writing anything down with anyone that's watching or listening, the formula is inspiration plus belief. We have to have belief that it's possible. We already talked about that. If you don't have belief that it's possible, you might as well just pack up and go home. It's not going to happen. You have to believe that it's possible for you. Okay. More than belief, you have to have faith. And I'm not talking about religious faith. I'm not even talking about spiritual faith. That will definitely help you. But what I'm talking about is that little kid confidence, right? That sort of naivete that it's already freaking done. Like it's already done. It's already out there somewhere in the universe. It's already happened. It's already done. It's already done. All I need to do is align with it and it's going to happen. So I know that sounds maybe a little woo-woo to some of you, but trust me, this is fact. This is science. You can actually Google this formula. People call it different things. This is my variation of it, right? Inspiration plus belief and faith that it's already done. It's that knowingness that it's already done. It's like belief times 1,000. Talk about 10x your belief. It's called faith that it's already done. And then all we need to do is move our feet and move our mouth. Tell people what we're passionate about. Share the things that we're doing. And you watch the magic and miracles open up. You watch the doors of opportunity open up. I'll give you a very brief story about this. Grad school, 2003. I'm studying, like I said, the cultural adjustment process when you get sent overseas and emotional intelligence. And I said, you know what? I want to go overseas. I have no money. I have no connections. I barely know anything about it. I've traveled a few times at this point, right? Back in 2003. And I just go on this absolute mission. I call it the discovery process. This is a process, the discovery process. I literally took a piece of paper. I wrote down a list of 10 people that I knew on campus that I could go talk to. If they had diversity in their title, I was talking to them. If they had ethnic, if they had cultural, if they had anything that didn't sound like it was just vanilla, I was talking to them. And every time I talked to them, I'd share my passion. I'd ask, what can I do for you? How can I learn? What are you trying to do? I was all about learning more about them and sharing my passion with them. And at the very end, I would always ask them, who do you know that you think I should talk to? And every single one of them would give me 1 to 2 people. I literally did over 100 quote unquote interviews. By the end of that first year, I was interviewing companies. They weren't interviewing me. I was interviewing them, getting to know like C-level people at different companies. That's actually how I ended up getting a job, by the way. But this is, and that's kind of the punchline here. But ultimately, all of a sudden I meet somebody and they're like, oh yeah, there's a woman that lives down, or she's from Brazil. She was went to school here a few years ago, blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, that summer, I'm in Brazil living in the Vice Minister of Agriculture's home, okay? He was the former Vice Minister of Agriculture in Brazil, this absolute mansion. No money, no idea how this was ever gonna happen. Magic and miracles open up. Now, I didn't always stay with him. I also stayed in like a little crazy nightly hotel, and I stayed in the closet of this 1-bedroom apartment with a family that had 1 child in a high-rise apartment. So it wasn't all perfect, but that magic happened out of just talking to people and going through this discovery process, having inspiration, having belief that it was possible, and faith that, like, everyone was telling me, how are you going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. I had a mentor telling me, how are you going to do this? How are you going to combine psychology and culture? Like, what are you going to do with this? It's my mentor in grad school, right? So fast forward, I'm like, if I did that once, I can do that again. I come back and do the same thing. Next summer, I find myself in Singapore working at the US Embassy, living in a 22-story building right in downtown Singapore for the whole summer, right? Meeting amazing people. I was studying cultural diversity. I really was. Cultural adjustment. I was going through the process, the 8 stages of adjustment, cultural adjustment. I was experiencing it firsthand.
Wow.
Come home and do the same thing, start interviewing companies. Before you know it, I get a job for the biggest company in the world, consulting company that relocates big businesses overseas on all the families when they're opening up new plants, doing mergers and acquisitions. And I worked for the boutique firm inside of that massive company it was called Sended Intercultural at the time. And I did exactly what I'm telling you about. I literally worked for a company that did cultural adjustment training and language training for these CEOs and these executives that were sent overseas to do mergers and acquisitions and all the families and all that stuff. It was my absolute dream job at the time, right? And it all came from being inspired, talking to people like this about my passion, but also asking them questions. I don't want you to think you just go in and throw up on people and it's going to go well, right? You ask questions of them as well and get what's important to them and find out how you can support them. And they're going to eventually ask you, well, what do you do? Like, what's up with you? And you just tell them your passion and ask them who you know and have belief that it's possible, have faith that it's already done. And that's all you need to do is take action. And that's the magical elixir, I believe, to having all these doors of opportunity open up for you.
I love it.
That's amazing.
I think there's actually I think we found the solution to this cultural kind of, issues, I guess, integration issues is pickleball.
You know what? It is pickleball for president, baby.
Seriously, you go to Singapore, you don't know anybody.
There you go.
Bloody start a pickleball club.
It brings people together 1000%.
Yeah,
it really does. And that's what I was saying earlier. I'm on the precipice of something. It's funny that you said that because I literally woke up about a month ago and I said, pickleball for president. It's just kind of goofy, right? But it was along the same lines of pickleball can actually heal the world. Pickleball can actually bring people together. In fact, there's a story in, I think it was Pickleball Magazine. They talked about people from, I think it was Israel and Gaza. I don't know that geography as well as most people in that, that study that, but they literally brought pickleball to them and it actually worked. It didn't solve obviously every problem, but for that group, they actually forgot what they were doing, their challenges, and they started playing pickleball.
Well, I love the idea also just with that sport is it's probably a very low kind of, entry point in terms of financial. In most sports nowadays, you're in $1,000 before you even learn anything.
Yeah, you need a paddle. You need a paddle, that's it. Go to a court.
Right.
So easy. And that formula, by the way, that I just shared, I've used that in every area of my life.
It's great.
I've used that literally. I'm now living my dream life, my current dream life, which is traveling the world, traveling the country in my RV, experiencing, my wife calls it the parks, puppies, and pickleball tour. We were not supposed to get a puppy. We have a dog now. in the RV. It was not part of the plan, but hey, you get what you say. You
Yeah.
speak it into existence, baby, and it
Right.
happens.
Totally.
So
That's awesome. That is
Right on.
great, Clinton. Well, tell our listeners how they can find out more about you, about Pickleball for Life, and
yeah.
about your speaking tours and et cetera.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, it's been a real honor speaking with all of you here. And if anybody has gotten, value from anything I've said and they feel like I could actually be of value to your Facebook group or your company or your organization, your school, I would absolutely be honored and thrilled to earn your referral to actually speak for your group. And a lot of times I'll even speak for free right now. I'm feeling kind of pro bono, if you will. My fee is quite large, so I know that some people can't always pay that, but I'd love to chat with anybody that thinks I could add value to your group. Right now, I'm not really focused on making money from speaking because I'm so jacked up on pickleball. If you feel like I could actually provide value to bring pickleball to you, if you're a nonprofit organization or a school, again, I'm traveling the US doing events for charity right now. And I'm having a ton of fun. So you can learn more about me at clintonyoung.com. That's my speaker website. And then pickleball, the number 4 life.org is where I have all of my events. And I'm working on a more developed website for my pickleball. We got on the news the last 2 events we did. We were just on CBS Austin, literally in May for Memorial Day. We did a Memorial Day challenge. So that'll all be on the new website. But yeah, having a lot of fun. So I'd love to connect with anyone. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Clinton Speaks and at Club Freedom Live. That is my wife and Glacy, our dog. That's our journey.
Love it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Clinton, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Great chatting.
Thanks for the opportunity, gentlemen. Take care.
10X for Gen XYZ is hosted by Zach Winter and Mark Adair Rios, co-founders of Prosperity CRE, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and building long-term wealth. If you like the podcast, please give us a positive rating and subscribe to be notified about future content. Also, if you'd like to learn more about our approach to real estate investing, you can download a free copy of our real estate investment book, Investing for Cash Flow and Long-Term Wealth, by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thank you and stay tuned for our upcoming episodes.